The calcium lie. I'm going to try and summarize this in 5 minutes. Let's go. People who come to us, or clients, whatever, will come and they will say, you know, I need to have dairy in my diet, I need to have milk, I can't cut out those things. Now, there's a lot of false premises in saying that to someone. So let's look at bone health. Now, number one thing you should know about bone health is that bone is not just calcium. If I just got calcium put in your hand, it would just be powder. Bone is an alloy. It's magnesium, it's phosphorus, it's nitrogen, and yes, there is a calcium component too. Now, let's look inside the gut first before we go too deep. So what helps us absorb calcium? Well, what absorbs the calcium? We have shags in our intestines. Now, those shags pull out the minerals from our foods. Now, the thing is, first of all, what is our gut health like? So are our shags optimal? This is why it was published that all osteoarthritic patients also need to be tested for celiac disease, because if someone has celiac, it can be caused, the osteoarthritis can be caused from the celiac disease, because they're simply not absorbing the calcium. Number two, what also helps calcium absorption is vitamin D. Now, if your vitamin D is low, the vitamin D is basically what is responsible for telling the calcium where to go and what to do. So if you don't have optimal vitamin D, that can also be a consideration for why calcium might not be there. Now, another point on this. The best thing you can do for your bones, bar none, is weight-resistant exercise, which is training. So the gym behind me is the best thing you can do possibly for your bones, because you've got to consider that the bone if this is your bone, the muscle is pulling from the origin to the insertion, which then basically causes the bone to calcify. Every time the muscle has to contract, that is stress for the bone. Humans are a bioadaptive machine, so to speak. So our bones are constantly adapting to our muscles stretching and pulling on the bone, so the bone doesn't snap. So putting weight bearing, or putting a load, external load in the hand and making that bone stronger, that's how we make our bones stronger. Calcium is one of the biggest, most abundant minerals in our body. So calcium will get recycled. This is where atherosclerosis comes from, is that you start getting calcium deposits inside the arteries, which then causes a massive problem, you know, in heart disease and all those kind of things, and circulation loss, long list goes on and on and on, hypertension, etc. But it's because the calcium has been misplaced. Now, why has it been misplaced? Again, we can look at low magnesium, we can look at low vitamin D, we can look at absorption, we can look at actually there's too much calcium in. So often you see atherosclerosis, the rates and incidence of atherosclerosis goes up when people consume too much calcium or go on supplements or form of calcium when they don't actually need it. But if we want calcium to have a direct effect locally on bones, then weight training is absolute king. Now, if we look anecdotally, if we look at the Japanese culture and we look at Western culture, Japanese have the lowest rates of osteoporosis in the world, yet also are the lowest consumers of dairy in the world. On the flip side, if we look at Westerners have the highest consumption of dairy in the world and are also the highest rates of osteoporosis in the world as well. Then we look at what we define as dairy today. So we've got this product called milk, and the reason why I say we've got this product called milk and not actually milk is because milk has been absolutely bastardized and then bastardized again. We have the homogenation process, pasteurization process, which, just to really cut this one short and give you a tight definition of it, pasteurization is a rapid heating of milk to kill everything that's inside. That's both good and bad bacteria inside the milk, because cows are supposed to eat grass, but today our cows eat grains. Now, I think it's in about a 90-day period, don't quote these numbers exactly, but in the same period, if a cow eats grains, it can produce 22,000 litres of milk. If a cow consumes grass, it can only produce 8,000 litres of milk. Now, I want you to think, for the viewer at home, when you see that bottle of milk in the supermarket for $1, think about how cheap the farmer has to produce that milk for, so Coles, Woolworths, the big supermarkets can sell that for $1. The answer is probably 1 cent. So Coles, Woolworths, they own probably about 80% or control about 80% of the consumer and retailer grocery market within Australia, which is absolutely huge. They have a monopoly, and that's why they can have the demand on the farmer to produce milk at a lower cost. Now, important for you to know, people think of that one bottle of milk as this picture-perfect milk that comes from that one cow. It absolutely doesn't. Big machines come in, they machine milk, you know, from the udders of the cows. All that milk goes into a truck. That then, you know, it's 1,000 cows into that one truck, then gets shipped out to a big processing plant, or, you know, whatever you call it, processing plant. It gets pasteurized, which is the rapid heating of milk to kill everything in the milk. Now, normally, if you have a cow who is eating grass-fed, eating what they're supposed to, the active form of E. coli is not as much of a problem. This is where you probably, if you're a farmer watching this at home, you probably say, I've been drinking raw milk for years and my kids grew up on raw milk and it's never been a problem. But why do we have to pasteurize? Well, the truth is they do have to pasteurize because the way the animal is treated is now a different product, and it causes problems. So it needs to be pasteurized. Then you have the homogenation process, which is the pressure hose through the grates, which then separates the fat particles. And then it will often get from that process, go to fortification. And the fortification, because there's nothing really left in the product anyway, the fortification is synthetic vitamin D, synthetic calcium, synthetic zinc is then back added. And on the label it says now with added calcium. The question is, if milk is so high in calcium, why do they need to synthesize it or add synthetic back in? So that's my 5-minute video. I know my time is up. I hope you've got value. I try to speak 4 times faster. Put me on double speed on YouTube. Till the next one, supplement smart, eat well, and train hard.